Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. My name is Gili. I'm VP BizDev with Orbs. And I'll talk today about some of the things we do at Orbs and how we can help enterprise adopt blockchain and get mass adoption to the enterprise application using Orbs technology and blockchain in general. Afterwards, we'll have a panel moderated by my dear colleague Danny, which you'll hear different perspective about blockchain for enterprise. And later on, and our part of this presentation will also be presented by my colleague Andre, who will talk about the technical side of Orbs, and it will be high-level overview and auto technical, so you're welcome to stay. So a little bit about Orbs. Orbs is, as I mentioned, is public blockchain for enterprise. We have about 60 people in the team. Most of the R&D is based out of Israel. We have offices in Tel Aviv, San Francisco, Seoul, and Singapore. We recently hired a guy in Tokyo to run our community over there. We won a Gartner Cool Vendor for the blockchain in the blockchain space in 2018. And we are a quite well-funded project. We raised about $120 million, and our network is launched and active since March this year. And our pitch or our value that we believe enterprise can get from using Orbs is all about trust. We believe mistrust will be the downfall of all empires. If we look about different industries or different verticals, we see that it's a game of winner takes it all. Whether we're looking on the advertisement industry, we're looking on the ride-sharing industry, or any other industry we're looking at, there's 2-3 big companies that are basically controlling this industry, and they are acting as monopolies or semi-monopolies. These guys are leading the industry, and this is leading to reduce of competition and mistrust. And this is just a few examples that we picked just to show you how these giant market leaders are basically taking advantage of their power and harming the trust of the user and their partners. And this is just a few examples how trust is really everywhere. No matter what industry we're looking at, whether it's the food industry, companies like McDonald's publishing the nutritional facts on top of their food was something that was unheard of a couple of years ago. Zappos or any other retail offer you a return of your product. This is a different derivative of trust. And I think maybe the most well-known or coveted space is the mobile space. And if you look on this graph that basically represent the market share between Apple and Google, this is something that is also related to trust. But what Google did by using the iOS, the Android operation system, is something that allows different partners, such as Samsung, such as Huawei, such as Sony, to use this operation system and develop their own software, their own mobile software on top of, and that's what get them to really surpass Apple and be the market leader using this open source code. And this openness is something that really function as another dimension of competition. And this is what we believe trust will be. If we look in the evolution of any industry, of any market, we really see that it usually starts about technology, product, then it's move on to network and who owns which geography, then it's move on to price, and we believe the next dimension of competition will be trust. And this is a good quote that we stole from Blockstack. And basically what it says, it's not about us. We don't ask you to trust us. We don't ask you to believe us. We say we have the technology. We have this technology. It's what enables us to provide and enhance this trust, and this is what this blockchain is all about. It's basically taking the ownership of the from the enterprise or from the user, and it's allow any user, any end user, to audit the data, to audit the algorithm, and really be part of this application. And why you believe blockchain is really the solution to this issue of trust? So as I mentioned before, blockchain is an external source of trust. It's something that is impartial, and it's a probable source of trust that basically take the ownership of from the enterprise to the user and allow anyone who wants to participate in the network to be part of it. And this is something that is quite unique to blockchain. Why it have to be permissionless? Because permissionless is basically said anyone who wants to be part of it can join. Anyone can become a node. Anyone can audit the data. Anyone can audit the transaction. And that's something that is quite unique. If we talk to enterprise, we see most of them are using permission blockchain. And this is something that, in a way, is I wouldn't say, it's not fully blockchain, let's call it that way, because they are limiting the number or who can be part of the chain and who could be part of the validation system. So we believe blockchain should be completely permissionless. And why high scale? Because if we look on any trash issue that were happening or was happening in the last couple of years, we see that enterprise, in order to generate trust, they needed to go to CPAs or law firm and ask them to manually check their data, make sure, and really audit it one by one. This is a very expensive and slow process, and we believe blockchain can streamline and automate this process, and that's why we believe. That's why we believe it should be done on blockchain, permissionless blockchain, and that could give you the high scale. The pyramid on the left side represent the three main generic buckets of use cases that we currently developing. On the very basic level, there's the data transparency, and this is related to data set and how a different user on different chain could really audit data that is registered on a blockchain. I believe we'll mention some of the use cases that we developed with Media Group and some other company to allow them and to allow their user to really audit this data. On the top floor, there's the algorithm level, and this is basically the algorithm that manipulates on top of the data. And this is very basically the core of any application. If we take the Yelp example, that is a use case that is easy to understand. If you see the ranking of any restaurant, it should be a pure reflection of the ranking of the aggregate reviews that people were posting in their mobile phone or in their phone. But there's no way for us or for Yelp to provide us the guarantee that there's no manipulation with the algorithm calculating the entire reviews and really show us a clear representation of the reviews, that nobody was manipulating, nobody was pushing some companies up or down just because they pay them more. So another thing that blockchain can help us with is really understand and audit the algorithm. And lastly, it's the governance. Basically, this is the way to impact and change the algorithm or the behavior of any application. So this is in a very high level, this is the three use cases that we support at Orbs. Now, in terms of our strategy or our go-to-market, we divide the world, if we want to be quite superficial, to two main areas in terms of the infrastructure. The permission one, which I talked about, and the permissionless. In terms of the permission infrastructure, there is maybe the most well-known one is Hyperledger by IBM. This is a permission infrastructure. It's a closed or private blockchain, and it basically not anyone that wants to be part of the validator system can be part of it. The consensus is usually based on proof of authority, meaning the people that participate in the validator as part of the validator federation, there are people that have some brand, some reputation, and this is what's called proof of authority. And as I mentioned before, end user cannot fully audit the data. On the other side, there's the permissionless infrastructure, and I think the most well-known infrastructure is Ethereum. This is a public blockchain, very decentralized, very secure, and anyone can become a validator. The consensus is currently proof of work. They're about to change to proof of stake, and the end user can basically audit any type of data. The solution that Andre will talk about soon in terms of our architecture that Orbs is adopting or Orbs is developing is a unique hybrid solution that takes the benefits from both world permission and permissionless infrastructure and try to offer it to enterprise using our own consensus and algorithm. In terms of the customers we see out there, there's the enterprise, basically any big company out there, and the dApps. dApps is basically decentralized application, peer-to-peer based. We at Orbs, after trying to chase or work with dApps for the last couple of years, we took a strategic decision, and we are focusing on enterprise just because we see there's no real adoption with the dApps. And no matter that there's about 3,000 dApps out there with $30 billion that were invested into this industry, there's still not enough adoption. So we believe the adoption will come from the market leaders, from this enterprise, using permission enterprise with permissionless infrastructure such as Orbs. This is a good slide that basically shows you how we position ourselves. So I mentioned the permissionless infrastructure, big companies like, or big projects such as Polkadot, Cosmos, and Ethereum. And on the permission side is Corda, R3, and Hyperledger. What usually happens is that the permissionless infrastructure are targeting or aiming to work with dApps. On the other hand, the permission infrastructure are working with enterprise. If you talk to enterprise, most of them are working with permission infrastructure. What we found out that there's a sweet spot that is not being filled yet, and we tried to take this spot. This is the spot where that we believe disruption will come up from or will emerge. And this is how we position ourselves. We are permissionless infrastructure aiming for enterprise using the permission apps run by the enterprise. I pass it along to Andre to talk about some of our basic core architecture design that we develop at Orbs. And I want to thank you all again. And I forgot to thank the Starfish team that were help put this event. Without them, it won't be happening. So thank you, all of the Starfish team. It was a great, and I know it wasn't easy, so thank you again. Andre?
Thank you, Gili. It's a pleasure to be here. I apologize in advance. I'm a bit jet-lagged. It's supposed to pass after 2 or 3 days. Apparently, my anatomy works different way, so still jet-lagged. I'm Andre Dolkin. I'm a VP Technology Engagement at Orbs. My group deals with actually helping customers launch their applications on our platform. And as Gili said, Orbs is a permissionless blockchain that is aiming to provide value to real-world enterprises, okay? So first of all, just to understand the audience, please raise your hands, okay? If you know how blockchain works at a most general level. Everybody, fantastic. So the following slide should surprise no one. What we have are nodes proposing blocks. Those blocks aggregate transactions, right? And those blocks are then propagated to validators in the network. The network validates, okay? And then if the block is proper, it gets committed to the chain, And thus we get the fantastic blockchain, right? So basically, right on this slide here, we identify two roles. What are the two roles for nodes in the system? Anyone? Block producer, right? Someone who proposes or proposer. And we have the validator, which is the rest of the network, basically validating that the block is proper. Now, when we are talking about a standard, it's funny to talk about blockchain in terms of standard, but on a Ethereum-like permissionless blockchain, what we get are block producers that are permissionless. Anyone can become a block producer on Ethereum, right? You can just download a client, one of several available clients, and you can start producing blocks. And the validators is the rest of the network. How do they validate? How do they declare that they validated the block? They just add it to their own blockchain and continue building on the longest chain, right? What we see very commonly in enterprise blockchains is the other way around. What we see is both the block producers and the validators are permissioned, okay? If IBM, for example, sets up Food Trust, or with Walmart, right? Or any other implementation, and just for my curiosity, who here has implemented or is working on implementing enterprise blockchain solution? Raise your hands. Fantastic, we have a great audience. Gilly, well done on the invitations. So we commonly see permissioned blockchains, basically a group of companies getting together, okay, and deciding we are going to operate the blockchain. And we are going to aggregate transactions, produce the blocks, the rest of the network will accept them. Why does the rest of the network accept them? Usually because the source of the block is one of the accepted nodes within the system, right? This is what permission means. So if my company and Gilly's company have decided to work together on a common blockchain, the fact that my node produced this blockchain should suffice, right, for Gilly to validate and approve this block. This is what Gilly referred to earlier as proof of authority, right? What we believe the situation is where blockchain can actually bring significant value is by having the block producers being permissioned, as in the application, the enterprise, produces the blocks that it would like the network to validate, but the people, the entities that validate those blocks are not permissioned. They are not being controlled by the enterprise or by its partner enterprises. This is the situation that can instill real trust in whom? In third parties that are not part of the blockchain. So whether those third parties are customers or whether those third parties are newcomers to this blockchain solution, they will want to know that they can trust whatever is happening on this blockchain. In this second solution, right, where we have the permissioned blockchain, basically what we have is a situation where anyone who is external to the system should trust whoever operates the system, right? It's very similar to if I would get an API to Facebook. I must trust whatever Facebook decides that is on their database. I cannot verify it by myself. I cannot audit it. I just trust the results that they provide. Whereas if the validators were permissionless, like we are proposing with Orbs, I could go and validate by myself that whatever is happening on the network has actually happened according to the rules. What are those rules? Who sets those rules? The rules are set by the application that announced to the world that it would like to operate this way. Imagine a rideshare company. Let's call it, I don't know, what's the known one? Okay. Take this company, and they would like to say to the world, we have an algorithm that decides on search pricing. Okay? We are not gaming this algorithm. This is how this algorithm calculates the price during search pricing. But I know that you, the riders, do not trust this system. You think that I can manipulate it during times of disaster. You think that I manipulate it when my share price on Wall Street goes down and I would like to increase the prices, or whatever the reason. You don't trust me. How can I instill trust in you as my customers, I'm going to say to the world, those are the rules of the games, okay? But who implements those rules? Who validates them? I do not control those parties. They are being implemented and validated by independent, permissionless third parties. This is the blockchain, okay? And you can go and audit that whatever the results are, they are according to the rules that I declared in advance. And by the way, this does not prevent me as the application from declaring new rules and saying, okay, next month I'm going to update my contract. The price of my algorithm or my rights should go up, and those are the new rules. You will still be able, as an application, to control, yet provide the guarantees that everything happens fairly as expected. Naturally, by itself, this concept will not suffice, okay? It will not suffice because it only provides a trust component, but any enterprise would like to know that it is actually doable and realistic, okay, the implementation itself. And this is the other aspect that we focused on at Orbs, making it very accessible, very easy for enterprises to use our platform, as well as financially viable, okay? Yeah, the jet lag hasn't killed me yet. So, when we say viable, first of all, we mean saying costs. So who here has experienced or tried running an application over Ethereum, let's say? Okay, we have several people here, and I'm sure that costs were a significant issue, right? The issue with Ethereum is that you have to pay per transaction. And now I'm a project manager at some large enterprise, and I'm going to my CFO, and I'm saying, I want to launch a new project on permissionless network, a permissionless blockchain like Ethereum, and he asked me how much is it going to cost, and I will tell, okay, it will cost 10 cents per transaction, but if we go to 10 million transactions, it will cost me $1 per transaction. And the next thing I know is I'm looking for a new job, right? Because I clearly don't understand how business works. With Orbs, the idea is that an application pays for reserved computational capacity. So any application that comes on Orbs pays in advance to the network according to the capacity that it requires, and it gets dedicated resources. As long as it pays, it's very similar to how you would pay for, let's say, AWS credits, okay? You're just saying, okay, I need 100 TPS, 1,000 TPS, I need 2 giga storage or whatever. You pay that in advance, and it's aligned with the actual cost of computational resources on any cloud infrastructure, and then you get those resources. You do not have to implement a per transaction model, but if you choose to do so, you are able to. Another important aspect is the fact that every application gets its own virtual chain. So the same way that when you are operating on a cloud infrastructure, you expect this multi-tenancy to work seamlessly, right? You do not want to be impacted by whatever happens with another companies that operate on the same cloud infrastructure. This is what you get with Orbs. Any application that comes to Orbs, any enterprise that comes to it, will just get their own dedicated virtual chain, and they can configure it any way they want. They want to enforce their own governance. They want to enforce their own consensus. They are able to do so, including, as I said earlier, the fees model. Another important aspect is the fact that through this virtual chain and through our consensus model, we are able to achieve almost infinite scalability, okay? And this is very important as applications usually start small. We start with POCs, MVPs, whatever we define them, but then we grow. And we want to know, when we develop the application, what is the limit to our growth? With Orbs, there is practically no limit, because you can always provision additional resources, okay? And the consensus and the network will support this growth. And the last thing, and perhaps the most important for the engineers and developers, but also, I assume, for project managers in the audience, is the fact that with Orbs you develop with standard tools and with standard languages that are known. We have, the contracts are written in Go, and we have a reference implementation for contracts in JavaScript. The client SDKs are available in JavaScript and Go, and we have a reference implementation for Python client SDK. So it's very easy to just download, install, and run. We have very accessible tools. I will show you in a second some of one page where we just organize all the tools, and you can go and explore them. You can just take a framework, we will call it a starter kit, install the starter kit, and just start operating your own blockchain. It will take you, depending on how long the installation of Docker, let's say, takes, and what internet speed you have in your home. It will take you, I would say, half an hour to an hour to get your own blockchain running with a contract that you wrote yourself. So what are we getting here? We are getting to the fact that through this path, we believe that we will be able to offer the real value of blockchain, the trust, the guarantees that a blockchain, true permissionless blockchain can provide. We can get it to mass market through the enterprises. So an application will control its own security. It will control its own block producers, okay? And I have no idea. Gili, you have an email. How do I get it? Over here. Oh, come on. Kill it, kill it, kill it, kill it. Die. Okay. Thank you. And the goal for us is not decentralization per se. The goal is for the application to be able to provide guarantees to the users. Before I say thank you, I will go to this one, and hopefully it works. So this page, you just can go to demos.orbs network, okay? And you will have all the resources here. But what you have here is a starter kit that I already mentioned, okay? So the developers among you can just go replicate the starter kit. It has all the instructions on install Docker. You'll have your own instance of a blockchain running on your machine. We have a project generator. We have demos of projects, including document notarization, art provenance, book registry, rights registry for images, and so on, available. And you have the libraries and SDKs in all the languages that you can implement and start supporting your own development. Naturally, if this is something that appeals to you, that you think that you have relevant use cases and you would like to explore Orbs, we are available, okay? We are very much interested in engaging enterprises, application developers, and so on, and help them build on our platform. This is what my team does on a technical level. This is what our business development and the customer success team does on the use case analysis level. And we really hope that you will enjoy building on Orbs. So thank you very much for attending, and we will be here. Thank you.